Welcome back to this week's edition of Modern Tech and Transformation. I'm Carla Hartman, and I'm excited to have a new face with me this week, Srinath Jayaram, Senior Director of Digital Engineering and Architecture at Resolve Tech Solutions. So thank you, Srinath, for being here.
Glad to be here.
Yeah.
Be part of this exciting phase in Resolve Tech where, a lot of innovative changes and all processes are in place now.
Absolutely. So tell us a little bit about your background since this is your first time on the podcast.
Sure. So I've been in this industry for about 25 years. I started my career as a Microsoft developer, then moved into mobile, worked in the Middle East for about 3 years, where I took up mobile development in my initial stages. And one thing led to another, as part of some of my digital transformation initiatives here in the US, one of the main asks from customers was to, a mobile-first approach to a lot of this project and product-based development. And so, with the mobile background, one thing led to another, moved into digital transformation, offering digital transformation services to some large customers here in the North America.
Great. And Srinath oversees a lot of our digital transformation projects and is one of our in-house subject matter experts. Digital transformation, the term has been around for a long time. What does it mean to you as someone that's worked in the field for a while now?
Sure. Digital transformation in its base, refers to the process of using digital tools and technologies to create and modify, primarily the first thing being a customer experience, and then also the business processes and culture. It involves using digital tools and data to improve the efficiency in a business process and enhance the customer value along with it and stay competitive in the modern digital age, right? And one thing, digital transformation is not a once and done, right? It's a continuous process, it's an ongoing journey where you have continuous improvement, data feeding back into both your customer experiences as well as to improve your business processes.
Yeah, no, that's a good explanation. And I know Michael's been on the podcast before, one of your colleagues, and he'll say digital transformation, it's hard. So what you do is take these hard things and help businesses make them easier.
Right.
And I was fortunate to hear you speak on 5 pillars of digital transformation recently. I want to dive into that, go into the 5 pillars. I thought that was really insightful. So let's talk a little bit about what those pillars are.
First and foremost, I think the most important piece of a digital transformation is the customer experience, right? Everything is rooted on customer experience. How do we make it easier for a customer to achieve something that they're looking to do, right? How do you design your UI UX that's more customer-centric or human-centric UI UX design, as we call it, where you get something to a customer within as few clicks as possible, or as quickly as possible, or make it easier to find what they're looking for, without having to look through your large application, right? Then on top of that, we have an operational agility, right? How your ways of working, if you want to bring in agile methodologies, what sort of agile ceremonies do you conduct on a daily basis? What's your definition of ready? What's your definition of done? How do you make it easier for the team on the ground to be able to deliver a large digital product, keeping the processes or bringing in the right processes to improve the outcome. And third, you have the workforce enablement, right? You can bring in new digital technologies, but how do you make sure that the workforce is well versed on how to use these technologies effectively and deliver value to it. So, bringing in the right workforce, training the workforces, retaining the right workforces, and being able to constantly train some of the new tools and technologies to use for the workforce is really important, right? And the fourth, which is really the backbone, and a lot of our efforts these days are on the area, is the digital technology integration itself, right? How do you bring in some of the newer technologies, right? How do you bring in a digital architecture, like a micro front-end architecture, a micro services architecture? How do you bring in AI, ML? How do you move to the cloud? How do you use cloud-native technologies to deliver the right outcomes? Then the last, but not the least, data and analytics. That's your continuous loop into improving the customer's experience, right? How do you make sure you get those feedback from the customer and incorporate that into your next release of your product version or a project version, and then continuously improve your product from there?
It sounds like if you have all 5 of those together, it can be successful because digital transformation projects are still failing sometimes.
Right.
What do you think is the number one thing you need to do to prevent a failure in digital transformation projects?
I wouldn't say the one thing. I would say one of the most important things to me again is the customer experience piece, right? The way you design your product or project basically is centered around what the customer experience is going to be, right? Unless you have that feedback loop or A/B testing with a customer to get basically to do a customer research to figure out if you should be developing a product in maybe way A versus way B. You will make sure that that customer feedback feeds into the product development and then making it successful, easier for the customer to basically accept that product.
Yeah, no, that is important because now with how rapid everything is moving, if a consumer picks up any type of product and they can't use it intuitively right away,
Right.
they're just going to go to the next
Right.
application, or they're never going to pick it up again because there's so many choices out there, right?
Correct.
And if you develop within an organization, then it's even more critical because you'll have to start all over if no one's using it.
True.
So I completely agree with that and
Yeah.
love that insight.
Right. And the piece that also flows in these days is, the hyper personalization, as I like to refer it to as, right? Not every customer is the same, right? You have one product that caters to so many different personas, so many different demographics, if you want to call it that. And there is sometimes a need to adapt your product to cater to those different demographics, right? So the personalization piece comes in with what you learn, the earlier reference to data and analytics that I spoke about. If customer A uses some sort of a feature a lot more frequently than customer B, and customer B uses another set of features a lot more frequently, there are instances where I've seen customers adapt their product to showcase some of the more frequently used, features of the app to be accessed a lot more from your dashboards and make it easier for them to get to do what they do every day.
Yeah, that's great insight. So, as we mentioned at the beginning, digital transformation's been around for a while, but there's still opportunities in the market to continue to transform. You mentioned it's not one and done.
Right.
So, what are some opportunities you're seeing in the market right now around digital transformation?
So, this again depends on, what stage of digital transformation customers are on. But as far as RTS is concerned, we have seen a lot of demand still in developing new digital capabilities, being cloud native, developing capabilities on the cloud. There are also a lot of requests that we are seeing coming in for modernizing the existing applications that are already out there by leveraging a much modern digital architecture, right? Bringing in microservices, bringing in micro front ends. Some of these concepts are developing as we speak. Some of this are in a much more matured state. Similarly, there is also a lot of demand for customers that want to consolidate their application portfolio, right? Maybe there have been mergers, acquisitions that ended up a customer having 50 different applications, right?
Yeah.
They might be finding it difficult to manage these 50 different applications, and there might be some synergies, right? There might be some common functionalities that might make more sense to merge some of these applications together and offer a common application for it, in the process making it easier to manage those applications. Cloud migration, that's definitely something, and to your point, something that we've touched upon multiple times, right? A lot of customers looking to migrate their workloads into a cloud, whether it's AWS, whether it's GCP, whether it is Microsoft Azure, that's definitely in demand. Then another piece of it is a platform or a technology migration itself, right? Now, sometimes this exists in itself where customers just want to move from technology A to technology B, but more often than not, it also comes with improving the customer's experience in terms of how do I not just move from platform A to platform B, but in that process improve the customer's experience.
Yeah, and that's important. Do you think a lot of organizations take that into consideration, or do you think more should?
I think a lot do, because again, if you if you do not cater to a specific customer's ask, more often than not, that product does not really do as well in the market, right? So a customer experience is like, I keep reiterating, is a lot. It's probably the most important piece of the digital transformation process.
I love that. So I always like to talk about some actionable things that you've done in your career. Talk to me a little bit about some digital transformation success stories you've had at Resolve Tech Solutions.
So there have been many, right? I mean, there are customers that have come to us for architectural consulting. We've worked with those customers in terms of identifying the right architecture to get to where they want to with that whole business transformation process. We've been reached out to for conceptualizing and building new digital capabilities, partnering with customers on innovation, bringing in new technologies where, we have co-innovated literally with some of our customers to, do research on areas like, for example, digital twins. And then there are also instances where, we have worked with customers to basically modernize and move data and application workloads to the cloud. The application portfolio rationalization or optimization that I was referring to earlier, there have been a few engagements that we've had with some customers on rationalization of applications in itself. But one of the larger engagements that we've been involved in recently, and it's been a large success story for us, is where we have stood up managed pods that are product aligned for a customer, right? Which means there are self-contained pods that we create and manage, and we own and manage the whole delivery of that whole transformation piece, right? Whether it's a new app development, whether it's migration. In fact, there's been a mix and match of both that we have partnered with customers to run managed pods, both with our offshore facilities as well as our onshore and on-site resources that we've been providing to our customers on. We've also had large success on implementing DevOps and DevSecOps, approaches. One of the areas that I probably haven't touched upon, but is really important, is how you automate your lot of your day-to-day processes, right? How do you make those repeatable processes automated? How do you bring in consistency in your day-to-day delivery process, like automating your quality engineering aspects? Running your regression tests, running your functional tests. How do you, if you were to, in a large typical application, when there are hundreds of test cases, it's not always easy to, manually test all of those in, every, minor release that you do into your lower environments. This is where, automation comes into picture and at the same time, improves your quality of the product in itself with shift left quality checks, as I like to refer it to as. Then, I referred to where we have partnered in innovation and R&D. We've had multiple products focused on data, IoT, digital products, digital twin, AI services, not to mention our Juno, Juno Labs platform, right, where we partner with customers to build, and research around AI capabilities, models, deploying, building them with, easy one-click access to. The capability that we offer is also, like I said, on onshore and offshore managed pod capabilities, as well as, there are some instances where we've had client managed pods, but from an engagement model, we partnered with customers on managed delivery, client engaged pods, time and material, even capacity based, where the customers have requested for fixed capacity resources. When I say fixed capacity in the agile methodology, they would say, give me a team that's capable of delivering 100 story points worth of work in a sprint, right? So, we've been engaged with multiple customers in all these different models, and almost all of them have been successful in one form or the other.
So talk to me a little bit more about the pod structure you just mentioned in putting a team together, and what does that look like?
Depending on the size and complexity of these different projects, right, or products, as you want to call it, we've had pods that have scaled across an organization, right? When I say this, I typically imagine a top layer of a governance core team which includes both a customer's leadership team as well as a team from RTS that oversees the whole engagement, which could include people like an engagement director or an engineering manager, a principal architect, that kind of oversees an overall architecture for the whole organization, right? And then what we end up typically doing is creating teams for each product, right? And we'll have usually a core product team that's there throughout the engagement lifecycle, carries forward the whole experience, so that the core team is always aware of why some certain decisions were made, and why some of these features were implemented or how these were implemented. And then we add what we call as flex pods for each of the features within a product, right? And this is a highly scalable structure, right? You have, at your core, maybe you might be developing about 4 or 5 features at the same time. You scale up and scale down pods when some of these demands are not as much as they originally were. So those feature pods are scalable pods that we create based on how fast you want to deliver something versus how it can be a medium or a slow priority that we want to introduce, right? Then we also have shared quality engineering services, right? Like, for example, your performance testing, your security and vulnerability testing, or accessibility testing are all shared services that can be spread for one product across these multiple features. So then we also have design pods, which basically oversee the whole UI UX design for the product for the product in itself, and also at the same time bring in consistencies across your brands and your branding guidelines that exist for a product, right? Now this whole product structure that I spoke to, which is one product core team and multiple flex teams that you add to it, plus the design team and the shared QE services, that whole structure itself can be replicated to multiple products, right? So product one, this is one structure. You literally take that and replicate it to a complete second team. That's a product two, right? So you can replicate that to n number of products within an organization that you want to build. Now, one of the more important pieces to it that many of the customers we have seen don't start to think through is an enterprise shared services team that cuts across all of these different products, right? Now, what this team does is promote reusability within an organization, and also consistency, right? For example, every product or an application that you build would have authentication, right? You would need to log in, right? If it's a mobile app, you sometimes have Face ID, biometrics authentication. Now, this experience doesn't need to be different across different products, right? Yeah. It's just authentication at the end of the day. Of course, the way it looks differs, but behind the scenes, how you authenticate doesn't need to be different. So that's where this enterprise shared services team brings that core value to bring consistency and create one reusable component that can be reused across multiple products, thus cutting down the development time for additional products that you bring to the market.
And costs.
Yes,
yeah.
Of course.
Which everyone's concerned about the bottom line,
Sure.
right?
Yeah.
Well, great. No, this was all really informative. I was really excited to have you join us after hearing you speak at a recent summit we were at. So thank you, Srinath. And I believe you gave the audience a lot of really valuable information on digital transformation, keeping that customer experience first, and what a good team looks like that you've worked with and the scalable pods. So thank you for being with us. And
Absolutely.
we'll
Thank you
see
for
all
having me.
next week.
Thank you.